Hey everyone, I'm Charlie Smith.
And I'm Eddie Robs, and you're watching Sweet Daddy's Monster Jam. So this week on Sweet Daddy's Monster Jam, we have a Savannah legend.
Yes, we do, Eddie.
Yes,
Yes, we
Roy
do.
Swindelle.
What a pleasure.
What a joy.
Yep.
I tell you, Roy has been around in Savannah for many years, playing music in several different bands. Currently, we've learned that he is playing with Christy Allen and the Christy Allen Band. And so we got a chance to catch up with Roy Swindelle at his home here in Savannah.
Hey everybody, I'm Charlie Smith, and sitting alongside of me is a legend here in Savannah, local musician Roy Swindelle. Roy, it is such a pleasure to be with you here today. I want to thank you so much for giving us hospitality and inviting us to your home, which is absolutely beautiful out here. And just thank you so much, my friend.
I appreciate it. I think you guys are doing a great thing, and just so you know, this was all built by tip jar money.
Oh
So,
man.
there you go. You know, you get a bucket out there, kids. Look at what you can do with it. So,
Right on, man. Roy, I want to get straight to business, man. I want to know where it all started from for you, man. How you got into music, what you first started, what instrument you started playing, things of that nature.
I started in probably 64, 65. We lived here. My dad was in the Air Force. We got transferred to Charleston. That's where I first started. I played drums actually. In elementary school, I played drums at Thunderbolt Elementary School. Moved to Charleston. Riddlin hadn't been invented yet, so my mother brought home a Ludwig drum set.
Right on.
I played it for a year, and some guy came over and said, "Your bass drum pedals come unscrewed from the bass drum." I didn't know. So anyway, I played that, and from there started playing in bands. That was the spur. Of course, that was, you know, the Beatles, all that stuff. First band I was in was actually a Ventures cover band, doing all instrumental. And so it all started there like every other kid. You know, you watch Ed Sullivan, you saw this, it was different. I will say this, and I've asked other musicians this, was what was the first song that made you think about music different? That you began to say, this is something different. For me, it was the skating rink up on B Road by the Grayson Stadium there. I think it's Furniture or it's Goodwill or something now, Salvation Army. It was Happy Organ by Baby Dave Cortez. And I have said when I die, that's what I want played at my funeral. But when I heard that song, there was just something that said, this is different, you know, and from that point on, I started listening to music different, which all musicians do. They hear something. I didn't know what it was, but that's how it really all started. When I came back to Savannah, I knew friends I had grown up with, because in that day and age, you know, you went to elementary, junior high school, the same people, but I didn't know any musicians. Roadies was doing their kind of Battle of the Bands thing in the Kmart parking lot there on Victory. I went to that. A friend of mine, Robbie Collins, who became a friend then, came up and said, you want to join my band? You're a drummer, aren't you? And I said, how'd you know I'm a drummer? He said, because you're standing here watching the drummers play. And I go, I'm a drummer. So those were the first guys, Robbie Collins, Duffy Osborne, Dick Yates, and that was the first ones.
So speaking of these instruments, I mean, like how many instruments do you play?
I started off as drums, you know, and actually the next instrument I played was harmonica. You can't play drums at 10 o'clock at night. My sister had a perpetual headache, and so I would play in the car to 8-track tapes to canned heat, and one day one of my friends said, that actually sounds like something. So that actually became my second instrument. I like playing harmonica, but, you know, started playing around with guitar, and just knew basic chords. In about 71, playing sandlot football, I tore my knee up pretty bad, and I kept playing drums for a few years, but played bass with a band with Steve Stevens and Steiny Brown called Riff Raff. And after that, I was playing drums and bass. We were looking for either one, and it was easier to find drummers than bass players, and from there on I just played bass.
Well, where'd that lead up to you getting with Christy Allen, you and Martha?
Actually, when we first got together, this was 20 years ago, Christy, I was teaching guitar at Roadies. I'd come off the road, was teaching guitars there, doing a little selling in the electronic end because I understood how all the electronic stuff worked. Her guitar teacher was either never there or he was late. And most of the time he was never there. And I would have an opening slot and I said, well, here, I'll give you a lesson. She wanted, at the time, she wanted to learn how to play guitar and sing so she didn't have to depend on other people. At one point she said, I've got a friend that owns Sam Fink's downtown. They want me to come play. Would you accompany me? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, would you mind if Martha played? And she said, no. We got together and she knew 90% of the songs we already knew, so it just kind of fell in. And I'm not saying this because I'm in a band with her. Christy has to be the best front person in this town.
Right on, my friend.
Her energy level, she works at getting that crowd up. I've seen it where it's just really a dead room and she just works till they get up.
So where you guys been playing at?
We play all over. A lot at the beach. We're kind of known as a Tybee band. Marlins and Fanny, sometimes at Nicky's, North Beach Grill, but we play City Market. The last couple of years, and it's something we've worked towards, is the private party convention business is starting to come back, and so we really like doing that. In that respect, I have Roy and the Circuit Breakers, that's my little solo act. There's the Christy Allen Band. Then there's Savannah Steel Drum Band. I also play guitar, and Martha plays accordion in the Lazaretto Creek Band, which is Thomas Oliver's band.
Oh, wow.
And then last year I had a little medical issue that I tell people I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I saw a glow at the end of the hallway. And in that morphine-induced state, I came up with this idea. Like I said, I used to be a drummer, and I had done this a little bit, but I got a trash can bass drum, a tambourine on a stand. Martha plays piano. And the thing that came to me was the name. We call it the Misses, MRS, the Misses. And I thought, what a great name, Martha Roy Swindelle. Why didn't I not think of this 20, 30 years ago? So that's another little side project.
You know, this is such a blessing to do this interview with you, Roy. I've had so many musicians that have put you up on a pedestal and have the utmost respect, love, and honor for what you have done, not just as a musician, but people that you've put under your wing and mentored and give drum lessons, guitar lessons, whatever the case may be. You have given back to Savannah what you have received. And it's just, to me, that words, I don't even know what to say, Savannah. I'm just blown to be sitting here with you, number one. Number two, it just blows my mind that there's people that really still do that, you know?
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm becoming a senior citizen, a musician. There's a group of us, we're the older guys. And when I used to teach guitar, I would tell that first day, I didn't care how old they are, I said, look, I don't expect you to listen to a word I say, because when I was your age, I didn't listen to anybody. I said, just come back in 20 years, tell me I'm right. And I have had 30-year-old guys walk up to me and go, you're right, you know, which is good. But I had mentioned earlier, Bill Avila. He, in the 60s, he was one of the 3 big managers, booking agents. Bill Avila, Butch Schroeder, Tom Brantley. Bill Avila was a mentor to people like me in my generation. He taught us that this is a business, you know, and there's a business side, there's a fun side, but there's a business side. And he gave a lot, and I like that. So I like help. I've been riding my bike, and I'll pass some garage where I see some kids playing, you know, and I'll go up, and I don't step in and go, you need to do it this way. But at some point, you know, I'll say, you know, why don't you try doing this, you know, and I've done the Portman's Rock Camp. I've done that a few times. Wow. And it's good to see these kids, and because nobody tells them anything anymore. It goes back to the bass drum pedal on the bass drum, you know. Yeah. Nobody was there to tell me, hey, screw that on, you know. And,
right on.
So yeah, I like that. It's a little humbling. Thomas Claxton. Thomas he listens to a lot of older guys. I'm not going to say he does everything we say, and I don't think he should, but he does say, well, how did you guys do it, or how did this work? And that's how you learn. You know, you learn by somebody else's. How many times did they fall in the water? I worked with a musician one time, and every idea I I tried not to shoot it down. But he said, well, you don't like any of my ideas. And I said, I've been playing 20 years longer than you. I said, I've done all these. I know they're not going to work, but I said, from now on, we'll try them. And finally he said, yeah, you're right. And it's not a matter of being right. It was just experience.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It's like what song to play. I've seen very good bands play very good songs at the wrong time. And there's a thing about when you play this song and play this song and play this song.
So true.
It's like original music now. You get so many people. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm going to do original music, and that's great. But none of us are Paul McCartney's to
That's
where
right.
we have a hit. And that mentality of I'm not going to play a cover song, and you go, well, but if you did this and got people's attention and go, I'm going to do one of mine, they're quicker to listen than you're just doing one after another that they've never heard of before. And that's the business end of it, and that's the marketing end of it.
So, Roy, what do you think about these bands today compared to the day, when you were growing up in your era?
I think there's some good bands out there, and I think there's some bands that are very imaginative. The Accomplices come to mind. They've taken a genre and made it in their own. The musicianship is there. On one hand today, a 10-year-old kid can go to YouTube and figure out guitar licks that, I know you were a drummer, I was a drummer, and the whole thing about lifting a needle off a record till you wore the record out. So the tools are way much better. Opportunities aren't there. When I was growing up, every junior high, every high school had a dance after every football game. They probably had 3 or 4 major dances. There was a teen club at the Hunter. YMCA had a teen club. There was a teen club in Garden City. I think there was one in Thunderbolt. There was a million places if you were 15, 16-year-old to play. Now, most kids learn in church. That's their experience, and they're learning from older guys. But there's always been musicians who weren't good and others that were really better. And Savannah's had some really incredible talented people that have come out of Savannah in that rock and roll genre. Larry Knight, Larry Cooperman, a bunch of people have come out of Savannah. Sometimes I think Savannah, they honor Johnny Mercer, Ben Tucker, and those people, but they're a Tony Arata, written what is considered probably the best country song ever, The Dance.
Yeah.
But you talk to people in Savannah, they don't really know he's here. You come to the Welcome Center, there's not a picture of Tony Arata up there and saying, hey, this guy did this. So sometimes I think that gets overlooked, and that there are people who have accomplished something, and they don't get that recognition.
That recognition,
on that end.
you're right, man.
You kids get off my yard.
Yeah. Eddie and I were listening early. He turned me on. I finally heard it. Tell me a little bit about the original song you wrote, Tybee Times.
Living on Tybee Time. It was in the first incarnation of the Christy Allen Band. I can't remember the words to Brown Eyed Girl, but I can remember this. Playing on stage, and I played this little guitar riff, and I thought to myself, that's a neat little riff. So I stored it in my mind, and Tybee has been good to me. Those people have been loyal fans, so I'll do anything to help anybody on Tybee Island that needs it. So it was more about Tybee, the lighthouse, the fort, the pier, picnic in the park. Yeah, just Tybee in itself.
Awesome.
And a good friend of mine down there, John Brannigan, John last year pushed to get this as the official song of Tybee. I didn't know anything about it. Oops. And when he called me, they called and said, we want to make it the official song. And they said, came up, how much would I charge for that? And I said, just give me free parking for the rest of my life.
That's a good trade, man.
Well, it was, but 3 months later, I almost died. So I was like, I'm not even going to get free parking, But everybody has said that it's Tybee. It's what they want people to think of Tybee. So that was good. That's something that
has to be sentimental.
It is, and when you're something you leaving a legacy or something when you're gone.
What about advice that you would give these young musicians out there right now today? If you had to give them some advice, what would you say to them?
Just because of the era I came up in, I'd say be entertaining.
Awesome.
Most musicians are not very entertaining. They think that you should listen to them. And God, there's so many musicians that they write songs and it's just angst. It's all depressing, and And I will say this, it's very hard to write a happy song. And Paul McCartney one time said, try to write a love song and don't say I love you in it.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's hard to write something upbeat, but it's easy to write about what a crappy day you're having. And I will say this, I go back to the accomplices. Train wrecks are that way, you know, they whether you like their music or not, they're having fun up there. And I've looked at it this way, you've had the worst day of your life. You know, it's just been a bad day. So you come into this bar where I'm playing, and you're not looking for me to be upset and moody, and you bring my life up. You know, let me
I'm there
forget
for you to
about.
make me smile and enjoy myself.
It's an escape, you know,
Right,
and
right.
a lot of musicians, you know, just nowadays you don't see that as much. But like I say, the era I came up in, you were there to entertain people. I'm not saying it's easier to be a musician, but anybody with a guitar now is a musician, and they're out playing somewhere. And a lot of that comes to the dollar. There's a lot of places in town that they don't really care if you're good. You just play for the amount they're paying, and there doesn't seem to be a standard. You have to raise yourself up. And I don't say that's Savannah. I say that's probably everywhere you go.
Yeah. So then what makes somebody good?
That's a good question. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to do with musical skills. I know you were in Toxic Oscar. That band was a musically skilled band. It demanded skills. You guys weren't playing simple songs.
No, sir.
You have to look at the people who aren't having fun. The people who are having fun, you've already got them in your hand. It's that person sitting back in the corner who just sitting there doing nothing.
Well, listen, Roy, I wanted to thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for your time. And young musicians out there, really tune in and listen to what this guy's saying. He's a legend. He knows what he's talking about. So I hope you learned something from this interview today.
Am I getting a check for this?
Yes, you are.
All right.
Roy, Will, cut Roy his check, please.
Got another one like that. You know what happened?
All right, another great interview. Thank you, Charlie, for doing such a great job interviewing Roy Swindelle.
And thank you, Eddie. You're getting so much better every week, man. It's just awesome watching you grow, my brother.
Well, it is my pleasure. And I want to thank Roy Swindelle for inviting us into his home.
And Martha Swindelle, his wife. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes, thank you. It was very nice of you to have us over. And we are looking forward to introducing you to many more Savannah musicians. In fact, Charlie, why don't you tell them about some of the bands we've been talking to in the past couple of days?
Right on, Eddie. Coming up in the next couple of weeks here, we have the Main Street Trio, which is a three-piece jam band that was referred to us by Josh Johansson, whom we did last week.
That's right.
Also on the schedule is Erica Franklin.
All right.
She'll be joining us soon, Eddie.
All
so
right,
this,
Erica.
It's looking so good, man. I'm excited.
Cool. We're also expecting to speak with Sarah Poole very soon. We really enjoyed seeing Sarah Poole at the Tybee Post Theater as part of the Savannah Songwriter Series. She's a great songwriter, and we'd like to meet her. Also, Sarah Bacon, another Sarah. She is singing with the Flying Bacon Cheeseburgers. And they're a jam band here in Savannah.
That's a
and
cool
so
name.
It is a cool name. And there's many others that we are reaching out to on Facebook. And if we haven't reached out to you, please reach out to us at Sweet Daddy's Monster Jam at Sweet Rocks.
Right on.
And we will be looking for a message from you and your band. And we'd like to interview you and introduce Savannah to more of their neighbors here on the Savannah scene. So until then, we will be hoping you check us out and kind of like us on the Facebook. Also, go over to the YouTube. It's Eddie Rock's channel, and follow us there. Okay. Until next time, when we kick the bobo.